these things that were no-go areas do not define who you are. We've seen some people today condemn Elijah Chitaka's dress code. It doesn't change who he is as a good person, as a good musician.
Yeah.
It's what he feels expresses who he is.
Yeah. As tattoo was a no-go zone, it still is, even as an adult. Like the way I was raised up to date, a few things have just actually changed.
Your parent would tell you something, like for the Westerners, iwe chifire. And they're really not coming from a bad place. Like, they're really angry at that point. But now when you think about it, you're like, really? That's what you called me?
Do you think that we have a responsibility to change that? Because how we're raised up then, without expression of how we feel about things, is eventually, affects how we also raise our own kids. Oh!
Please add that.
When we speak about growing up in a typical African setting, we speak about being raised as a child who is supposed to survive everything, like walk in thorns, walk on feet, without shoes.
I remember they kept telling us, we went, by the way, you're lucky, we went to school without shoes. But that was you.
They had to cross 2 rivers.
And then we have to put you in a car and take you to school.
Drop you off, pick you up.
You can't even go to town. You can't even go to the shop.
Would you say you were a planned child?
Ish.
You grew up here in Kampala or in Kabale?
In Kampala.
So you don't know how Kabale looks like?
I've been there. I go to visit.
Okay. It doesn't matter, by the way, even if you grew up in a typical African setting, in quotes, what I mean by that, or if you grew up in a home where you had everything that you needed, smart TV, DSTV, car to drop you
games,
to
video
school, games. It doesn't matter if you had ice cream once a day. There are homes that just ignore or ignored mental health. I'm not going to ask what kind of home you grew up in, whether they did or not, but the homes that ignore or still ignore mental health. For example, how growing up in a home that ignored mental health affects us as adults, later how we turn out to be. Many Ugandans many parents do not believe in therapy.
Right.
Or they say mental illness is just for the bougie people.
That is very true. Actually, in one of the lady groups that I'm in, one of the things that we focused on last year was what we called healing the child, the mother wound, the mother wound. But anyway, it's those things that your parents did to you or did not allow you to express as a child that you have carried through your life and are now affecting you as an adult. We get to see people in offices where they say, that person likes attention so much. And these are things that we ignore, but through those conversations we had with the ladies, I got to know that it's not now, it started from childhood, that the parents did not give them time to listen to them, to their challenges,
and now
what
they
they're
crave
going
it.
through. And now they crave it. So it's some of those things that we did not experience as children because our parents did not create the platforms for us to, or room for us to share, that then affect us later on.
Would you say that you were able to express your feelings while you were a child?
To some extent.
To
some extent, because I was sharing with someone about the Gen Zs, or this generation that everyone seems to be complaining about. And I was saying the difference between them and us is when I was told you are going to place X or you're going to do this, I didn't have room to question or give my opinion or say, maybe I can do it later. I just had to get up and move and do it, or I had to go to where they're telling me to. The children of this generation will have to ask why. they will share their opinion about what you're telling them to do, which we didn't get to do then. Some say that's why we are more disciplined, in quotes. But I don't know. Maybe we are more disciplined, but with our childhood wounds. I don't know.
That's important to note. More
Yeah.
discipline with our childhood wounds. I didn't say I grew up in a home where I was able to express my feelings. What are you saying? You're a child. What are you saying?
Exactly.
The other episode we talked about your daughter asking you
Yes.
if she can have a boyfriend.
But I got a lot of feedback.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
And tattoos. As tattoo was a no-go zone, it still is, even as an adult. Like the way I was raised up to date, a few things have just actually changed. Even talking about a relationship then, when I was not a child, but as
A teenager.
a young
or-
adult,
or-
then or a teenager, or just expressing maybe how I feel about how you discourage me to play football. All that was just bottling up all the time.
Yes.
And I think that that's for so many homes out there. Do you think that we have a responsibility to change that? Because how we're raised up then, without expression of how we feel about things, is eventually, affects how we also raise our own kids. Do you think we have an opportunity to change that?
I think we
in this
do.
generation?
We really have a huge opportunity. When you were talking about the no-go areas as a child, I remember we're not supposed to have varnish on our nails, especially that is red. My mom would say that is for prostitutes, and red lipstick. So you will not be a
I think
prostitute.
I remember that as a child. Not that I wanted to do it, but I grew up with sisters, so let's say nail polish is for prostitutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and lipstick, especially the red one. It was, yeah. But now our children are more expressive because
I think what I remember. No offense to anyone who wears anklets, but my
are you
parents used
speaking
say-
to me? But that is, I mean, Canary, in the comment section, that's something people, every time I post my pictures for the news, I will find one person who will talk about the anklet. But I understand where they're coming from. So I'm not
Yeah.
even going to stress about it because they've known that from childhood and they're carrying it on till today. They've probably not been given the opportunity to think otherwise.
Absolutely. For me,
Yes.
it was such things like wearing an anklet for a lady. It was so entrenched in us that is for sex workers to a point that I would tell my girlfriend then, now my wife would say, I don't think I'm comfortable with that thing. Until later.
Did she change?
She changed then, but later, I'd say, you know what? I think
okay.
this is just a trend, and
Yeah.
I think it's something like for example, like a necklace. I don't think that this is for this specific group of people. Yeah, but that was from my upbringing. My mom would tell my sister, say, remove that. I should never see it.
But I guess now she didn't mind. I'm hoping. I don't know. Does she still mind now?
No, she doesn't. I think as time goes on,
Yeah.
and I think as you also talk to them, get time to you say, by the way, I think this is this way. It's not the way you perceived it then. Things have changed.
Things
yeah.
have changed. But I also think these things that were no-go areas do not define who you are. We've seen some people today condemn Elijah Chitaka's dress code. It doesn't change who he is as a good person, as
Yeah.
a good musician.
Yeah.
It's what he feels, expresses who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His fashion sense.
Because I have tattoos and a nose piercing and an anklet, I'm not a prostitute. I'm actually a respected news anchor and an entrepreneur and a good mother, right? So I think that conversation has changed, though some people still want to stay. We have the opportunity by telling our children, by talking to them, by creating space
Yeah.
for them to be able to share these things, to share their opinions as we share our opinions. We can't just say, do this, and they have to do it. Because we are sending them to better schools. We are helping them interact with the right friends. We are taking them to the right places, the right parties, so that we can open up their minds to be able to make the right decision. Sometimes I feel like maybe some people hold the children so much, but you see, when you expose them, they get to learn. They see things and come back to you.
Yeah.
And you should be able not to judge or condemn them, but to have conversations around these things and why you feel some things are wrong and some things are
And
right.
something is right.
Yeah.
I think every time we talk about this, we want to, as young adults, we want to escape it
Yeah.
and push it to our children. But don't you think we have an opportunity to reparent ourselves?
Definitely.
Don't you think
But I
there's
don't know how many are willing to do that.
reparenting ourselves in a way that we give ourselves things that our parents couldn't? Know that they refused or sometimes couldn't afford. Yeah, but just couldn't. You think we have an opportunity to reparent ourselves?
I think we do.
I mean, I'm 30. I still have so many years ahead of me. It means that, for example, if I could not play video games as a child, I have an opportunity to because I can afford to buy one.
But also now there's so many things that you could use to reparent, right? There are podcasts, there are books you could read, there are places you could go to
But
experience.
we could also reparent ourselves through parenting our children by giving them the things our parents couldn't give us.
Or the things that, for example, if they said, I mean, I was never taken to a spa, maybe I could take them there instead of saying you cannot go there. If the kids say, I want to watch a movie, and maybe you've heard stories about what happens in the cinema and you're saying no, I can say, I will go with you to watch this movie. I want to see for myself and experience that and see what people are talking about and what you want to experience. Yeah.
All right. And all right, let's get into our next segment. What were you thinking? All right, so Sheila, here is two things that I feel that could break all these generational things that we went through that bring us trauma. Number one is to have the ability to recognize harmful patterns. It could be patterns around habits, anything harmful. You think that we can develop that ability? Because, for example, our parents, you knew they would be triggered by something. Oh,
Please add that.
weren't you scared?
I grew up in a barracks.
You grew up in a bar, so you're not scared of. You know parents would be triggered. For example, if you return home past your curfew time. Do you have curfew for your kids?
Of course. But most of the time I'm with them.
You're with them.
Yeah.
You escort them to parties?
don't-
Especially the eldest?
They don't. The eldest is a strong introvert. Most of the time she's reading. She's on her, what are they called?
Tabs,
No,
iPad.
not tablet. Kindle. Yeah.
She's reading.
Yes.
Yeah, but what I was thinking about is, can we develop the ability to recognize harmful patterns and know that things that will be done over and over again, that if you let it continue, I think it could be harmful in the end. Yeah. And then the other thing is building a healthy emotional vocabulary. You know, that there are things. Why has that triggered you?
Oh my goodness. Because that has triggered me because we were having the same conversation, especially our people from the West. I love you, but even growing up, your parent would tell you something like, for the Westerners, iwechfire. And they're really not coming from a bad place. Like, they're really angry at that point. But now when you think about it, you're like, really? That's what you called me? So yes, being careful about the things we say, right?
Yeah.
Around the children, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which oh my goodness, really? But yeah.
But that has in a way that it affects not just us as parents, but also as the children
The
themselves.
children, yes, because you may say it then and you didn't even really mean it that way, but the child will carry it on with them and actually believe that that's what or who they are. Yeah.
And also, are we able to break the cycle? The things that happen to us then, they shouldn't happen to not just our kids, but even their kids.
Definitely. Canary, I remember in the first episode when I was talking about, I recognized that one of my strengths and weaknesses was perfectionism. But it's because growing up there was no room for having things go wrong, you know? But that's not how life is. It always can't be a straight line.
Yeah.
So I carried that until now, where I'm really intentional about leaving room for mistakes for not only myself but for the children, so that I'm not putting so much pressure on them and allowing them make those mistakes and learn from them and grow through those mistakes.
And that's why I think, like I said earlier, it's always important to recognize or have the ability to recognize harmful patterns. Because then, if you know, I can't let this go wrong, I can't do this, and then you live like life walking on eggshells. You end up not living a happy life.
Yeah, you don't leave at all.
You don't leave at all.
You just go through life. But maybe also what we talked about in the previous episode, therapy, because maybe you don't have the strength to do it as a parent. Yeah, but you can get someone to talk to who will hold your hand to being a better parent with your children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's important. All right, guys, let us know, what does it feel like, or what did it feel like growing up in a home that does not recognize mental health?
Yeah.
And what is your experience like? Share, subscribe, and like. Sheila and I will be back here next week with another episode. Catch you then.
See you.